Hi everyone, welcome to Inside Archaeology, where we dig deep into the world of heritage and the discoveries that are rewriting history. If you're new here, my name is Rachel. I've worked as a professional archaeologist and excavated in Jordan, Canada, and throughout the United Kingdom. Today's video is the July 2023 edition of Archaeology News, which covers all the latest interesting things going on in the world of our shared heritage, presenting stories from all over the world, including the latest exciting discoveries, news, and any pop culture or entertainment stuff that is related to archaeology. All the links to further details on the stories mentioned today will be in the description below if you would like more information on them. Before we begin, I spend hours researching, writing, filming, and editing my videos, so if you like it, please consider giving it a thumbs up to tell the YouTube algorithm to promote it. Or if you're feeling extra generous, you can go to my Ko-fi page and give me a small tip. I'm talking the amount that it takes to buy a Sharpie because archaeologists always need more Sharpies. Taking a few seconds to subscribe or like really helps support me in keeping the channel going. Okay, everyone, let's dig in. We have 9 stories today in our top discoveries segment, which I will cover in chronological order from the stories farthest back in time and then working my way up closer to modern day. We start with 300,000-year-old Handaxes in England and finish with the 400-year-old remains of what is thought to be the first English slave fort in Africa. Kicking things off, in the county of Kent in England, archaeologists excavating in advance of the development of a school have discovered some of the largest early prehistoric stone tools in Britain. The excavations yielded prehistoric artifacts in deep Ice Age sediments preserved on a hillside above the Medway Valley. Over 800 stone artifacts, thought to be more than 300,000 years old, were buried in material that filled a sinkhole and ancient river channel. 2 large flint knives described as giant handaxes were among the discoveries. Handaxes are a type of tool that were chipped or knapped on both sides to produce a symmetrical shape with a long cutting edge. These ones are described as being giant because they are so big it's hard to imagine how they could have been used practically. The biggest is over 29.5 centimeters in length and is one of the longest ever found in Britain. It's thought that they fulfilled a less practical or more symbolic function than other tools, a clear demonstration of strength and skill. The site is thought to date to a period in the early prehistory of Britain when Neanderthal people and their cultures were emerging and may even have shared the landscape with other early human species. Although archaeological finds of this age have been found in the area before, this is the first time they have been found as part of a large-scale excavation, presenting a valuable opportunity to study how an Ice Age landscape developed over 250,000 years ago. Going forward 100,000 years and across the globe to China, the Chinese Academy of Sciences has announced the discovery of a fragment of fossilized human parietal bone that's part of your skull, found at the Zhaokudian site in the suburbs of Beijing. The Zhaokudian site is a cave system which has yielded many archaeological discoveries, including one of the first specimens of Homo erectus, who is also known as the Peking Man. The recent discovery was identified among the mammal fossils in location 15 at Zhaokudian with the aid of CT scanning and 3D reconstruction technology. It is the first Pleistocene human fossil discovered at the site since 1973. Location 15 is 70 meters away from location 1, where the first complete skull of the Peking Man was found in 1929. Many stoneware and mammal fossils dating back roughly 200,000 years have been unearthed at location 15. The new fossil will help scientists explore human evolution in the region through comparative anatomical and molecular biological studies, and it provides critical material for studies on the evolution pattern of ancient humans in China. Heading now to Spain, archaeologists using a new technique analyzing sexually dimorphic amelogenin peptides in tooth enamel have proved that the highest status individual in an ancient Iberian Copper Age society was a woman, not a man as previously believed. The tooth comes from a tomb outside of Seville that dates to around 2800 BCE, and which was thought to belong to a young man of between 17 and 25 years of age. The individual from this tomb, now named the Ivory Lady, was buried with ivory tusks, ostrich eggshell, and a rock crystal dagger. The riches of this tomb at the Copper Age settlement of Valencia de la Concepcion were incomparable with those found in others from around the same time. As well as containing a high number of valuable goods, the grave was also a rare example of a single occupancy burial, another sign that it belonged to someone of very high status. This is just one of the first examples of how this new analysis technique using tooth enamel can provide highly reliable sex determinations for even poorly preserved human skeletons. There is no doubt that further application of this analysis to prehistoric human remains will likely yield results that are going to significantly change the way that gender of archaeological human remains will be approached in the future. Next, we go to Cyprus, where some of the richest Bronze Age tombs in the Mediterranean have recently been found. An archaeological expedition from the University of Gothenburg discovered the tombs outside of the Bronze Age trading metropolis Hala Sultan Tekke, which is located in the modern city of Larnaca. To find the tombs, the archaeologists compared the results of a magnetometer survey with where broken pottery had been found when it was plowed up during farming. This led to the discovery of the tombs, which consisted of underground chambers of varying sizes, accessed via a narrow passage from the surface. Inside were several well-preserved skeletons, including that of a woman surrounded by dozens of ceramic vessels, jewelry, and a round bronze mirror. A 1-year-old child with a ceramic toy lay beside her. Several individuals, both men and women, wore diadems embossed with images of bulls, gazelles, lions, and flowers. Some had necklaces with pendants of the highest quality, probably made in Egypt during the 18th dynasty. The tombs also contained bronze weapons, some inlaid with ivory, and a gold-framed seal made of the hard mineral hematite with inscriptions of gods and rulers. The ceramic vessels mostly came from Greece, but also included pots from Turkey, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. Other grave goods included fish bones from freshwater Nile perch. The imported objects confirmed the extent of Mediterranean trade during the Late Bronze Age, as well as showing the great wealth of the people buried in these tombs, wealth that came from the island's trade in copper. What distinguishes these tombs from those previously excavated is the sheer quantity of artifacts and their superb quality. About half were imported from neighboring cultures. The richness of the burials indicates that their occupants may have in fact ruled Larnaca and the surrounding area, but this hasn't been definitively proven yet. There are plans to use stable isotope and DNA analysis to determine how the tomb occupants were related and their geographical origins. Moving on, researchers have finally begun to decipher the ancient Kushan script, 70 years after it was discovered in the 1950s. This Middle Iranian language was likely one of the official languages of the Kushan Empire, which sprawled across Central Asia and northwestern India between 200 BCE and 700 CE. The script has remained elusive partly due to a lack of surviving text sources that didn't withstand the test of time, as they were probably recorded on organic materials that disintegrated. However, characters carved into cave walls and painted onto ceramics have survived across Central Asia. Archaeologists have discovered several dozen Kushan inscriptions since the late 1950s, mostly in present-day Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Uzbekistan, but they were unable to decipher these inscriptions. Now, in a study published in the journal Transactions of the Philological Society, researchers examined newly discovered bilingual inscriptions and have started to decode the Kushan script. The researchers used parallel inscriptions in the Bactrian language that were carved into rocks found at Almosi Gorge in Tajikistan and at Dast-i in Afghanistan. Words that referred to Kushan Emperor Vema Takhtu as the King of Kings tipped the researchers off about the phonetic values of individual characters that had, until then, remained a mystery. Their observations suggest that the Kushan script records a language that developed midway between Bactrian and a language known as Khotanese Saka, which was spoken in ancient Western China. The discovery sheds light on more than half of the 25 to 30 signs used in the Kushan script. The team hopes that by re-examining known inscriptions and searching for more examples, they can decipher the remaining characters and read the script in its entirety. Another DNA discovery brings us to the Scilly, Scilly, islands off of the coast of Cornwall in England, where the mystery of a 2,000-year-old kiss grave has now been solved. Since its discovery and excavation in 1999, Archaeologists have wondered whether the stone-lined burial chamber contained the remains of a man or a woman. This question arose due to the burial's unique set of grave goods: a sword and a copper alloy scabbard and a shield, objects commonly associated with men, as well as a brooch and a bronze mirror, adorned with what appears to be a sun disk motif that is usually associated with women. The grave is unique in Iron Age Western Europe for containing both mirror and sword items. Attempts to establish sex by traditional methods such as DNA analysis failed because of the disintegration of the bones. All that was left that could be seen of the skeleton was a dark soil stain where the body had once lain, with only small pieces of bone and teeth remaining. Now, a scientific study led by Historic England has determined the remains are in fact that of a woman, using the same dental enamel peptide analysis technique as was used for the earlier story of Spain's Ivory Lady. This discovery could shed light on the role of female warriors during a period in time where violence between communities is thought to have been a fact of life. This discovery presents an exciting opportunity to reinterpret this important burial, as well as provide evidence of a leading role for a woman in warfare on Iron Age Scilly. Who knows what other hidden female warriors are out there that will now start to come to light and change how we think of gender roles in the past. Now we head over the Atlantic to Mexico and the site of Mitla in the state of Oaxaca. Originally called La Yoba, meaning place of rest, it was inhabited as early as 2,000 years ago and was a significant religious site for the Zapotec people. In 1674, Francisco de Burgoa, a Catholic Dominican historian, wrote of a vast labyrinth under Mitla that the Zapotec people saw as an entrance to the underworld. Today, the archaeological site consists of 5 groups of buildings, and a team of researchers have proven that the legend is true, using 3 different geophysical survey methods to scan and find a sprawling underground complex. For the first time in Mexico, the results and images generated from the ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity tomography, and seismic noise tomography surveys were combined to provide an accurate 3D model of what lies beneath the ground. The results confirm the existence of extensive underground chambers and tunnels underneath the church building group, in the same location claimed by colonial documents and the local tradition to be an entrance to a great subterranean temple. A possible blocked-up entrance was identified underneath the main altar of the Catholic Church. The survey has also uncovered evidence of an earlier construction stage of the Palace of the Columns at the site, as well as several other geophysical anomalies that might be tombs or other buried structures. These findings will help rewrite the history of the origins of Mitla and its development, as well as provide valuable information for the management and prevention of seismic and geological risk in the area. A second season of geophysical investigation is planned, focused on structures to the west and south. Our next discovery is from farther south at Machu Picchu in Peru, where a newly published study, again of DNA, from 34 individuals buried there has given insight into the geographic origins of the servants of Incan royalty. Machu Picchu originally functioned as a palace within the estate of the Inca emperor. Despite its fame, little was known of its function and its inhabitants until recently. The emperor and his court only resided there seasonally, but a retinue of retainers was left behind to maintain the facilities in their absence. We know from historical records that the royal lineages were served by male individuals known as Yanacona, who were ethnically non-Inca, taken from conquered lands by the emperor or presented as gifts to him. Yanacona appear to have received wives from the class of females known as chosen women, who were severed from their ethnic group and educated in special facilities. As a royal palace, Machu Picchu would have been occupied by several hundred of these privileged servants throughout the year. The study of DNA from 34 of their burials has connected these servants to genetic ancestries that represent all regions comprising the Inca Empire, except central Chile/Western Argentina, which represents the southern frontier. Additionally, about a third of these individuals have DNA reflecting significant amounts of Amazonian ancestry. Most of these individuals were not related to each other, indicating that they didn't come to Machu Picchu with their families. The researchers only found one pair of first-degree relatives, most likely a mother and a daughter. Together with the burial distribution patterns and analysis, the genomic analyses reveal that the retainer community at Machu Picchu was very diverse, and their lives were not structured primarily by ethnic or regional backgrounds. Our last discovery for today's show brings us to Ghana and the exact location of what is thought to be the first English slave fort in Africa from the 17th century. Fort Amsterdam is a still standing fort on the Ghanaian coastline of the Atlantic Ocean. Inside that fort are what are thought to be the remains of an older fort called Cormontine. Dating back to the 17th century, Fort Cormontine was built by the English in 1631 and sat on the Atlantic coast just at the time when Europeans started shifting their interest from trade in gold to the trade in humans, with the slave trade commencing in 1663 when King Charles II granted a charter to the Company of Royal Adventurers of England trading into Africa, which gave them monopoly rights over the trade in human beings. The fort was only in English hands for another 2 years before the Dutch seized it and built Fort Amsterdam on the same site. Cormontine would have played a key role in the initial stages of the slave trade as a warehouse for the goods that were used to buy slaves. It was also a brief holding point for those who had been kidnapped in different parts of West Africa before being shipped to the Caribbean to work in plantations that developed the sugar economy. Nowadays, Fort Amsterdam is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which had previously made looking for the earlier fort a difficult task. Initial digs in 2019 in the area turned up some early 17th century artifacts, suggesting where the original fort might be, and archaeologists returned in 2023 to continue their search. A Nigerian graduate student uncovered a stone that was identified as part of a bigger structure, and as the excavations continued, they uncovered a 6-meter long wall, a doorpost, foundations, and a drainage system made of red brick. All of these indicate an English presence predating the Dutch fort. A gunflint, tobacco pipes, broken pottery, and the jawbone of a goat were also found. Archaeologists will spend the next 3 years excavating to build a better picture of what this early outpost of the slave trade might have looked like. All right, that's it for our top discoveries. Now we have 3 stories for you in current news. Last month we covered the story of the Bulgarian man living in the UK who carved the initials of himself and his girlfriend into the Colosseum at Rome to much public outcry. He is now facing a huge fine and a potential prison sentence, but apparently the worldwide news coverage and condemnation of this act haven't been enough to deter further people from attempting to illegally damage the monument for the sake of, I don't know, internet points. A 17-year-old German student on a school trip and a 17-year-old Swiss tourist were both caught in separate incidents on camera in July, defacing the Colosseum in a similar manner to the Bulgarian man. Both are now facing fines and potential prison time as well. So yeah, stop carving your name into old stuff. Going next door to Greece, more than 25 centuries after it was built and nearly 200 years after it began attracting tourists, the Acropolis will adopt crowd control policies to deal with soaring visitor numbers. Unprecedented lines at the foot of the site, a dramatic rise in sightseers, and unruly scenes at the gateway to the sanctuary have spurred the Greek government into action. A time slot system, fast lane entry points for organized tourist groups, and electronic ticketing are among the steps that will be taken to deal with congestion at the site. If you are planning a trip to visit the Acropolis anytime soon, I highly suggest that you check in advance to make sure that you will be able to obtain a ticket and time slot of your choice. Last in news, at the end of July, there was extensive news coverage of an extreme heat wave affecting southern Europe, which affected many archaeological sites around the Mediterranean and even led to several thousand tourists being evacuated from the island of Rhodes in Greece. The Athenian Acropolis had to be closed as the afternoon sun set heat records for the year at one point, and there were several cases of tourists fainting at the site from the high temperatures. Wildfires caused by this heat wave has also had a significant impact, such as in Sicily, Italy, where a large wildfire at the Segesta Archaeological Park almost reached the Doric Temple. This temple was one that was featured in the latest Indiana Jones film, and while it was untouched, the fire destroyed the park's refreshment and souvenir area and public bathrooms. As August approaches and tourism season continues to hit full swing, remember to always bring water and dress appropriately for the heat. All right, that's the end for current news and events. We're going to close our program today talking about archaeology and entertainment/pop culture. There's not really much to talk about this month, but we have more Netflix content. In early July, the documentary Unknown, The Lost Pyramid was released on the streaming service. The program follows the 2021 dig seasons of two prominent Egyptologists, including the search for the titular lost pyramid of a 3rd Dynasty king called Huni. I watched the documentary and reviewed it on my channel. If you're interested in what I had to say about it, you can watch it here. Okay, everyone, that's everything for the July edition of Archaeology News. What was your favorite story from this month? Is there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have any stories that you think should be featured on next month's show, feel free to send them to me via direct message on Instagram. Don't forget to support the channel with a like or subscribe before you go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!